dump it into one of your empty Amazon boxes or something. That way the debris and whatever little bits of dirt or whatever else is in the drawer goes into that box that you're going to be tossing instead of onto your carpet. I'm Ronnie, and you're listening to Clean With Me, the podcast where I walk you through cleaning your house step by step. When you clean along with this show, you'll get more done in less time, so you can spend the rest of your day doing what matters most to you. Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I'm going to talk you through cleaning and organizing your office area. If you don't have an office area, this could mean just your bill paying area or your desk. For me, I have a desk in the corner of my bedroom, and I call that corner the office. Let's get right into the episode. The first thing you're going to want to do is clear off the surface of your desk. We always start with the surface cleaning. The quick win is not to clean out your drawers. We're going to get to that, but the quick win is to clear off the surface of your desk. And I'm kind of talking to myself here as well, because right now the surface of my desk is covered in clutter. So one thing you might want to do is toss any pens that don't work during this next step, but you're going to decide what you're going to do with pens. Do you have a little pencil can that you keep pens in, or do they go in a drawer? Okay, on my nightstand, I have this cute metal floral pencil can. I guess for lack of a better word, it's shaped like a can. And when I was a kid, we used to use tin cans for our pencil boxes. Only a few of you are going to relate to this next part, but for a lot of my school years, I went to a type of Christian school called an ACE school. Okay. I was in ACE from 2nd through 9th grade, and instead of desks, we had offices. They were little cubicles, and there were certain things that we did at the beginning of each school year to decorate our office. Super fun, right? Well, the back of the cubicle, the part that we would look toward, was like a bulletin board, and we would decorate that with wrapping paper. So you would just pick a wrapping paper that kind of represents you, whether it's your favorite color, your favorite pattern, your favorite theme, and you would kind of staple that on the backboard. And then for your tin can, you'd get like a large soup can, like the ones that the Campbell's Chunky Soup come in. You would, of course, remove the label. You'd wash that out. And then you would wrap that can, usually with the same wrapping paper that you used on your backboard, or you could also wrap it in colored felt, fold it in and glue it on. But these days I'm using a store-bought pencil can. And of course the cubicles also had dividers. So when you're passing notes to the person next to you, you either toss it over the divider if you're really brazen, or a better method is to slightly lift the divider and slide the note underneath. I'm just throwing that out there for those of you who can relate. But decide where your pens go, and maybe pencils if you use them, and place them in that can. Maybe test some, scribble on a piece of paper and see if the pens even work, and put them into the can or the drawer, wherever you've decided, because you might have a little drawer organizer for your pens. I use the pencil can on my nightstand by my bed, but then in my desk, the pens just go inside of a drawer. But right now we're clearing the surface, and there are probably more than just pens on the surface of your desk. You might be just kind of stacking random things there. I have some textbooks that my son was done with. I photographed them and posted them to a group of moms whose kids are in the same school. Didn't really get a response, so I'm probably going to move those into my long-term storage area, which is a bookcase that goes in one of my son's closets, and there's a shelf for textbooks. But right now, those textbooks are cluttering up my desk. I don't know what's cluttering up your desk right now, but if it doesn't belong in the drawer or in the pencil can, it might need to be relocated to another room. And obviously, I'm just sitting here recording right now. If you're new to the show, I do clean in some of the bonus episodes, not usually, but once in a while I record an episode where I put on a headset and I'm actually cleaning while I talk. So that's just another reason to subscribe to my bonus content. That's my little plug there. But I'm just sitting here recording, talking about a future cleaning session. And when I do go to clear off my desk, once I have gotten down to just the in basket, as I call it, or bill basket, my next step would be to sort through those items, just take out those envelopes and papers one by one and decide what needs to get shredded and tossed and what needs to stay in there. Yes, some of my bills are paperless and paid online, and some of them I have to make a phone call or go to a website. Some of them come out of my bank account automatically, but there are a few bills where I use the physical bill when I go to pay the bill, maybe 4 or 5 of them, just a rough estimate off the top of my head. And I like to keep those in the bill basket. And it also comes in handy when you're in a situation like you go to the DMV and they're like, we need a recent utility bill for proof of address. That's another reason to have those recent bills. But my bill basket is also just kind of an in basket or a pending basket, and be sorting through your bill basket, whatever you call it, or just clearing off the surface of your desk while I talk. And I realize that your bill paying area might be the edge of your kitchen counter. It's just not my style, but some people do have an area for that, especially if you have a large kitchen with a lot of counter space and you have an attractive basket there for your bills and other documents, and you don't mind casual guests looking at those items, then maybe a little kitchen bill paying area is for you. But I think those kitchen corner of the countertop bill paying areas are kind of left over from a time when we were using landlines and people had a phone in the kitchen. So they had their pencil can and their notepad by the phone, and that ended up being an area for paperwork. But a lot of us don't do that anymore. But there might be papers in that basket that are just things you need to remember to deal with. It could be something that needs to be filed. By the way, you do need a long time. I know some of you are young. You're kind of just starting out with adulting. Others of you have known this, but you need a long-term storage system. You need a place for important documents. Okay. I have one of those sort of thin cardboard expandable files, and you can put the little tabs in that label them different things. For example, there's a section for birth certificates. There's a section for Social Security cards. There's a section for vehicle titles. But let's say you were just at the DMV getting your teenager a license or whatever, and maybe you put the birth certificate in that pending basket. Now's the time to permanently file it. When I'm looking for an important document, it's either in the top drawer of my dresser, which I do not use for clothing. It's just strictly for papers. It's either there or it's in the file folder. And I feel really accomplished when I go through that drawer and toss things I don't need and file things that I do want to keep. But you don't want to have too many different places in your house where something could be. I mean, what if you're out somewhere and let's say that you've already drawn a number at the I'm using the DMV because we've been there a lot lately, but and in our town it's called the MVD, but I'm talking about the Motor Vehicles, Department of Motor Vehicles, or Motor Vehicles Division. And you need to call your husband like, hey, can you meet me here with such and such the document? Like, you're sitting there waiting. It's going to be a while before it's your turn, but you're making progress, and you read a sign and you realize you're going to need 2 different proofs of address, or you realize you forgot to bring someone's birth certificate, or social security card. You call your husband, it feels good to not have too many places for him to have to check. Like, hey, it's either in the top drawer or it's in the expandable file under birth certificate or under social security card. Or, in reference to utility bills, it's in that basket on my desk. I was really just using it as an example when I said you might put the birth certificate in the bill basket. It's not exactly how I do it because my short-term storage for important documents is my top drawer. Long-term is putting it in the right section of the expandable file. And of course, I keep that up high in case of a flood or something. Hopefully, I've given you enough time to clear off the surface of your desk. And you might already be sorting through things in your in basket or bill basket, or you might be saying, Ronnie, I don't even have a basket. The bills are just piled there. Don't panic, and you don't need to rush out to the store and get a cute in basket. I mean, I didn't buy a basket specifically for this purpose. I used a basket that was, the right size for like an 8 by 10 sheet of paper or whatever, 8.5 by 11, whatever sheets of paper are. I already had a basket like that I had been using for another purpose back when I was homeschooling my kids. But especially with bills that are just the size of an envelope or a folded piece of paper that came out of an envelope, a shoebox would even suffice temporarily. Then later you could go to a dollar store or something and get some kind of basket. Or alternatively, you could have a drawer in your desk designated for that purpose. But I feel like sometimes when things are placed in a drawer, it's out of sight, out of mind. I like to see that bill basket every time I walk by my desk. And by the way, I recommend having a calendar at your desk. It makes it easier when you're paying bills. And I realize we have these types of tools on our smartphones, but I like the visual aspect of just being able to glance at a large calendar, jot something down on it. So I recommend either a desk calendar that's like on the surface of your desk and you just kind of do things on top of it, or a wall calendar, whatever is best for you. And I mentioned shredding documents. I don't actually own a shredder, but I do tear things up, which I realize is not as secure, but I'm not, some paranoid boomer or something. I'm Gen X. Okay. When I do cut up a credit card that's still good, though, this is my little trick. I'll cut it into several pieces and I will toss it in 2 different waste baskets in my house so that they don't end up out in the outdoor trash can at the same time. So nobody's getting that entire credit card number. Meaning like I might throw away half of the pieces in my master bathroom waste basket that doesn't get emptied as often as my kitchen trash, and then the rest of it in the kitchen trash, and the kitchen trash gets emptied like that day. Another alternative to buying a shredder is if you do have a fire pit in your backyard. We need to get one of those ones that's lifted above the ground because technically we're not allowed to do it campfire style. We created a fire pit where we've just stacked rocks, kind of like what you would see at a campground. But we found out that was illegal, and we need to get one of those ones that's raised where it's kind of like a large pot. But at any rate, you can use your old bills to help get that fire started. Kids, don't try this at home. That part was for adults. Of course, your older kids can help under supervision. So maybe you could have a wastebasket or a box for papers to be burned, if burning anything is allowed where you live. I know some of you are in different countries, different states. And of course, some of you recycle paper, so that's yet another option. You might have a recycle bin, but I would still rip things first. And ripping the bill in half probably doesn't serve that much of a purpose, but it just helps me distinguish what's trash and what isn't. If I see that I've ripped something in half, but it maybe didn't make it into the wastebasket, I don't have to look at that item again because I know I already looked at it, determined that I didn't need it, tore it at least in half. And your pending basket might be strictly a bill box where you keep a few utility statements, or it might be other papers and reminders of things that you need to deal with. Maybe a form you need to fill out at some point. Once you've cleared off the surface of your desk and you've thinned down that end basket, the next thing, and of course you dealt with pens, you have a system for it. And you could also I didn't really get into this, but you could also just use like a mason jar for your pens. You probably have something around the house you can use. The next thing you're going to want to do is go through your drawers one drawer at a time. I don't want you to just empty out all of your drawers. You might have had someone in your life who cleans this way and it works for them. Like, I can picture my mom just saying, take everything out of these drawers or something, and then having the attention span to sort through it all. But for me, I would rather do one drawer at a time. Depending on what's in the drawer, I might completely dump it out. And a little trick for cleaning out a drawer without making a mess is to just dump it into one of your empty Amazon boxes or something. That way the debris and whatever little bits of dirt or whatever else is in the drawer goes into that box that you're going to be tossing instead of onto your carpet. So at this time, you might want to grab an empty box out of the garage or something. But I'll dump out one drawer, and I'll typically do that if it's easy to remove the drawer and then put it back in. I'll dump everything into the box and then decide what I want to keep. Okay, this is key here because a lot of times junk ends up in your drawers, and it's more about what to keep than what to throw away. So in that situation, you're looking down into this box with this dirt and debris, maybe some pencil shavings, and, just random items that maybe you stuck in that drawer because you were vacuuming around the desk and you just weren't sure. Sometimes we're just not sure what to do with something, or we don't want to get sidetracked by thinking about what to do with it, so we stick it somewhere. Okay, it's not always ideal. Sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's not. But sometimes we're just getting things up off the floor. Anyway, you're looking down at this drawer. You're going to pull out what's still useful, what you still want. And there might be something in there that's useful, but it's not worth keeping. Before returning the useful items to the drawer, you might need to clean the drawer. Maybe dumping it into that box got it sufficiently clean, or maybe you need to wipe it out, perhaps with a disposable wipe or just a damp rag. Or maybe you would rather vacuum it out using the vacuum attachment. But obviously the time to clean the inside of a drawer is when you empty it, and you'd be surprised how dirty a drawer can get when years have gone by since you've cleaned it out. But decide what you're going to keep and put it in the drawer. Bonus points if you have some type of drawer organizer. It's kind of like what you have in your silverware drawer. They have ones they have little units like that in the office supply section that are specifically designed for your office supplies, or sometimes you just buy the ones that are for silverware because they would fit nicely in your desk drawer. I'm talking about things like staplers, extra staples, staple removers. These are the kinds of things, paper clips. These are the kind of things that can go in those little organizers. But if you don't have a way to organize, at least you thin down your drawer. But ideally, you don't want too many of your desk drawers to be miscellaneous junk drawers. Sometimes you don't have to use an organizer unit. Sometimes you can just use a small plastic box for items. It could be disposable Gladware in your kitchen. Anyway, you're going to repeat this organization process with each of your drawers. And it might not be practical with some drawers to completely pull them out and dump them. You can just pull things out, put them in the box, decide what you're going to keep, and then vacuum out the drawer or wipe it out, or both. By the way, don't stop to pay bills. If you're doing that, place the bills back in the bill basket. This is a cleaning session. We want you to get that desk or bill paying area clean. Getting all that clutter out of your bill basket was the first step to paying your bills, because it's going to make the session easier. You're not going to have to go through 50 items to find the water bill. And maybe you're young and all of your bills are automated, so this doesn't apply to you. But a lot of us still get a few things in the mail that we need to look at. And just while you're systematically cleaning out each drawer, I'll just talk about things that you might want to stock your desk with. Check on your supplies. Do you have enough checks if you're still using checks? Do you have enough printer paper, ink cartridges, stamps, envelopes? And I'll admit I don't use stamps and envelopes very often, but my middle son is getting ready to go to boot camp, and so I purchased some stationery. Does anybody buy stationery anymore? And you might be thinking, oh, stationery is just paper and envelopes. Yeah, but like when I was a kid, people would gift me these pretty stationery sets where there was lined paper with maybe a little floral print and then matching envelopes. Well, I had to order something like that online. Of course, I got something a little more masculine. There's scenery on the papers and envelopes instead of just a floral print. And I really liked it because it came in a resealable container, kind of like a Ziploc bag, but a little heavier duty. And I thought, well, this is perfect. I can keep it in my purse. That way, when I'm camping or whatever, I'm still going to have my stationery. But of course, I need to buy stamps. They're going to provide him with the stamps and envelopes to mail us letters. But I've already purchased my stationery. But I realize there are a few situations in life where we write handwritten letters. But another situation where I do use stamps is at Christmas. Some people on my Christmas list just get a Christmas card with a gift card in it. I don't really do Christmas cards for everybody I know. I mean, I probably should, but I don't really do that. But I do purchase Christmas cards to send to the people who I'm sending gift cards to. And of course, in those situations, I put a stamp on it, and I realize you can email people virtual cards. It's a little more festive for them to receive a Christmas card, open it up. It's like kind of that excitement of opening up a gift. But as far as supplies like checks, paper, ink cartridges, stamps, envelopes, life is easier when you buy things like this before you run out. It just is. So something to think about as you're cleaning out your desk drawers. If you're still cleaning out desk drawers, you may want to pause the episode, and it's okay to leave a drawer not organized. You don't want to have a perfectionist attitude that makes you feel like every time you do a task in your house that you have to organize every inch of the space. Okay, when I clean out my closet, it gets a little more organized each time, and the same is probably true of my desk, because there's always a point where I need to move on to something else, because we have these daily responsibilities that keep our house functioning. We've got dishes to do. We've got dinner to cook, often college work or a job to go to. So you've got to know when to call it a day. But that said, if you're on a roll cleaning out drawers and you need more time, feel free to pause the episode. But what we're going to do next, of course, is wipe down your desk and do the dusting. You may have a computer monitor on your desk, or you may just use a laptop, grab a microfiber cloth and wipe down your computer screen, okay? Maybe you even want to clean out your keyboard with one of those things that sprays air. Maybe you have that handy. But you're going to do your dusting, and you're going to, of course, dust the top of the desk. And, whether it needs to be wet dusted or dry dusted, it's going to be really satisfying to be able to see a lot of that surface, have it wiped down. And, maybe you're going to have a few little knickknacks that you decorate it with, or maybe it's just the pencil can. But it's going to feel so good when that surface is clean. For me, it's only supposed to have that in basket and then kind of an old nameplate of my husband's from when he had his own office. That's our decoration for the desk, because we share that desk. And of course, your in basket might be more complex. You might have one of those stacking basket systems. Maybe you have an in basket, an out basket, baskets for different things. Maybe there's a different one for bills. I get that. But for me, it's just one simple basket of to-do items. They're usually mainly just bills. But I also want you to pick up and vacuum under your desk and obviously do a pick vac, where you pick up and vacuum the entire room. So whether your office is its own room or it's within a room, you're going to want to start by picking up under the desk, continue picking up the rest of the room, and then sweep or vacuum, depending on what kind of floor you have. But don't skip the step of picking up under your desk. A lot of times we're working at a desk, maybe we're in a Zoom meeting or whatever, we're dropping stuff under the desk and forgetting about it. So that's an important step. You want to make sure you've got leg room down there and that you're not just accumulating items under the desk. So while you're picking up and vacuuming, I just wanted to remind you that I have bonus episodes, which are typically longer, and you can unlock those by supporting the show. I am still going to record a whole house cleaning hour today, which will be released a little later in the day. By the time you're listening to this episode, it might already be out. But don't miss it, because I'm going to give you another tip for new moms, meaning moms of babies and toddlers. I got a lot of positive feedback on that. And obviously, if that doesn't apply to you, still listen to the episode, because that's only one small part of the episode. You're going to be doing a little bit in each room of your house. It's going to be a typical whole house cleaning hour. But I got a lot of positive feedback when I did a couple episodes that provided tips for new moms. And I thought of another productivity tip that's not really about cleaning, but I'm going to give you that tip in today's bonus episode. To learn more about unlocking those episodes, you can visit cleanwithmepodcast.com, or you might have already seen the option being advertised to you. Okay. You can support the show by subscribing to bonus episodes on Apple Podcasts, which is that purple app that came with your iPhone or other Apple device. Or for any phone, you can support the show on Patreon. And of course, there are a couple other ways you can support the show as well. Visit cleanwithmepodcast.com for more information. Special thanks to those who are already supporting the show financially. Welcome new supporters. Thank you so much to those ride or dies who've been with me for years. And then thank you everyone in between as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to clean up any mess you made during this organization process. You might have a box full of junk that you need to dispose of at this point from when you cleaned out the drawers. So I hope you continue on and listen to the bonus episode. But even if you're not able to support the show financially, we have an extensive library of free episodes to listen to. If you need to do something else like your dishes, there's an episode for that. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, happy cleaning. I'll talk to you in the next episode.